You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This is episode 268 of Horsemanship Radio, brought to you by HandsOnGloves, the all-in-one revolutionary bathing, grooming, shedding gloves. Horsemanship Radio is a part of the family of the Horse Radio Network. Today is a special episode. This is at the end of the year, and we're sharing the impact and importance of the Horse Sense and Healing program at the Monty Roberts International Learning Center in Solvang, California. This is Debbie Laux, and you're listening to the Horsemanship Radio. Thanks for joining us. Horsemanship Radio airs on the 1st and 15th of the month, and I have my producer, Jen. Producer? You're my juicer? Yes. Jen with me today. Hi, Jen.
Hi. This is going to be a really interesting show. I think it's going to be fun. This is why I think it's going to be fun.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Because we're doing the Horse Sense and Healing as our topic, but we're going to get 3 different perspectives on the same topic. We've got Monty, who invented it, basically.
Yeah.
We've got our guest, Wade, who comes at it from, for the lack of a better word, client or customer's point of view.
Yeah.
Right. And Jamie, who is someone who is a certified trainer who uses the techniques and the philosophy and the skill, but she's not the inventor. So she's the instructor. She's the teacher.
Yep. Facilitator.
The facilitator. Yeah. So I'm really excited about hearing all these different perspectives. So we're not going to wait long. We're going to jump right in right after we hear from our title sponsor, HandsOnGloves. Well, before we get to our first guest, we always have a little chat about HandsOnGloves because they are our title sponsor after all. And you had mentioned something a little earlier about a mare you had there at the farm that could benefit from some new techniques with the HandsOnGloves.
Yes, I loved you. We were talking about HandsOnGloves being so clever. There's so many different things about them that we love. But the one thing this poor mare is always suffering from are the little drips off the belly when we wash her. And she's such a sweetheart. She really puts up with a lot. But for her, you can just tell it's like super ticklish, like there was flies all over her belly. And it's not, it's just a little water drops, But even after you scrape her off, you know how the water creeps down under there and it drips a few more times. It drives her bananas. And you told me about a video that showed a guy who had thrown a towel over his dog in this case. But, before you put it back in the car, you get out a towel. But for those who, want to really be able to grip the towel and really get a good job done of drying the dog or the horse in this case. And I could really reach under her belly by putting on my HandsOnGloves, grabbing the towel, and, I don't have to hold it very hard if I can scrub under her tummy with that towel and get those last little bits of moisture out of there so it doesn't bother her.
We've all taken the towel and we dry some part of the horse with the towel. Well, the towel dries the top of the hair. Right. It does, especially as their hair gets a little heavier in the wintertime.
Yeah, here we are.
It doesn't get down. And it's like trying to wash your hand without using your hair, without using your fingertips. It doesn't work.
Exactly, Jen. That's a perfect analogy because I can't get in there, especially under the belly. It's kind of loose skin and yeah,
that's
perfect.
Brilliant. So washing your horse, give him a quick scrape, and you've already got your HandsOnGlove on anyway because you were using that to scrub your horse.
Yep.
Well, just grab the towel in your hand. Give the tummy a rub, give the legs, and what a great way to also get the legs and fetlocks and coronets really, really dry because that's going to ward off scratches.
Yes, that's another thing that we can get here in the tall grasses. And she is a pasture horse, but she's absolutely lovely. And she loves her spa days and loves her grooming, but she hates her little drip drops.
There we go.
Her tummy.
Yet another. We're going to have to develop a pamphlet, 101 useful ways that you can use your.
I'm telling you, every time you get horse girls together and you talk about HandsOnGloves, we come up with a new one almost every time.
Every time. And you can find out more at handsongloves.com or you can find them at your local retailer.
So just to give you an idea of who we have on air today to have this conversation about horse sense and healing, I'll give you a little background on Monty Roberts, Jamie Jennings, and Wade Cook. So Monty is he wrote the autobiography, The Man Who Listens to Horses, and it sold 6 million copies, right? And he seems to have touched a chord. And it's a huge cross-section of people since 1996 when it was published in the United Kingdom and then in the US in 1997. And it's been translated in dozens of languages since. So not only do people appreciate horses and how they relate to that, but it's those people who've read it that recognize that horses and people are experiencing violence and mental stress, and they're seeking better ways to communicate in their families and in their work environments as well. So we'll have Monty Roberts' perspective. And then we have Jamie Jennings. She was awarded the Outstanding Trainer of the Year by the ASPCA for working and helping over 100 retired thoroughbred racehorses a year find their new homes. Jamie is married to Chad Jennings, who's served our country as a Top Gun pilot and is now a retired pilot, but still flying. And Jamie is a certified Monty Roberts instructor, as Jen had said, and she has helped facilitate these horse sense and healing weekends with Monty. And she's also the co-host of the most listened to horse podcast in the world, Horses in the Morning. So she brings a great perspective and really can share about the impact that way. Now, Wade Cook is new to this. He is a retired U.S. Air Force veteran with over 20 years of distinguished service as a decorated helicopter search and rescue aviator. After his military career, Wade spent the next 20 years as a senior executive in the defense industry, leading global teams developing innovative simulation and training solutions to support our warfighters and other partner nations around the world as well. He is deeply committed to veteran advocacy, serving on the board of That Others May Live Foundation for 8 years now, and is currently their board chair. The foundation's mission that he's involved in is to provide immediate tragedy assistance, critical support, and scholarships for the families of the U.S. Air Force rescue heroes who were killed or severely wounded in operational or training missions. Wade is currently a volunteer and a new board member of Join Up International with firsthand experience in Monty Roberts' Horse Sense and Healing program. He joined us in the last couple of them. And the powerful impact it's had on our veterans and first responders. He'll give us a perspective on that. Well, welcome. We have introduced you now. I read your bios ahead, so everybody knows who is here on the phone with us. I'm really happy to have the three of you together because you bring a perspective, I think, uniquely in each case about a program that is one of my heartfelt beliefs that it is making a huge difference in the people's lives that are touched here in Solvang at the Monty Roberts International Learning Center. We've been doing that since 2010. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
Good. There's voices. Okay. And Wade.
Thank you, Debbie. This was very, very special to me, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Well, you all bring a unique perspective in that you've all been a part of the program too, and also believe in veterans and their sacrifice. So it's a 3-day program to give you a little perspective, listeners. It starts on a Friday morning and it ends up on a Sunday afternoon. But the impact really is centric to Saturday afternoon. And that's because that's when you achieve join up if you're a participant in the. Another important thing I want to say up right up front, though, is that we do invite supporters to come along as well and learn with them and then witness and help them give a perspective when they go home of what just happened. So I really advocate for supporters in case we forget to say that when we're talking about it today. But on Friday morning, when we start with our cup of coffee around 9 a.m., I think the thing that sobers everybody up pretty quickly is we're going to show you a join up in the round pen across the yard from the school there, and you're going to be doing that by tomorrow afternoon. Now, remember, a lot of these guys and gals have not even touched a horse before, and it's a lot to ask. And so we spend the next day and a half really breaking down the barriers to fear, mystery, overeagerness. It's all those emotions come up when working with the horses. The horses are really the professors. They're really the strategic parts of this program, and there's no denying that. But I would like, just because we're going to say words like join up and equus, Dad, I would love for you to start us off with sharing how do you describe what a join up is, and what's this equus, the communication system, and how is it used in the Horse Sense and Healing program?
Well, join up is that experience that happens when a human can make the horse understand that violence is not the answer.
Mm.
And that happens with a communication system, not one that anybody ever produced. And I attended 4 universities that were using the background of studies of animals and people, and certainly a lot about the studies of communication between humans and between animals.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout my education, there was very little about communication between humans and animals.
Right.
Animals didn't have a language, although there were monkeys in programs that got close, and they brought out dictionary and things like that. And I was working with horses. Throughout my life, from the age of 4, I was challenged by a proposal that you try to win a competition by having the horse understand what you're asking him to do. Now, it's a communication system without sound.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because there's a lot of communication systems without sound. And now, as we become more advanced, we see a lot of them happening over the airways and stuff. No sound at all. But the horse has a system that is very, very efficient. And that is that they use their ears, their eyes, their neck, their spine, and particularly the neck and spine, to tell us what it is that they fear or what it is that they accept.
Mm.
And so we go through each of these moves, and I discovered them way back in the 40s. And you can imagine what people said.
They didn't understand a gestural language. Like we would understand signing for the deaf. That probably people make sense of that. Mm-hmm.
So in 1950, I told a group that I was going to Nevada with to capture mustangs that I would go out and pull a mustang out of the herd, have him follow me, and ride him back to the camp in 3 days. And they just treated me as if I was a complete idiot. But I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, "Oh, you just found a horse that somebody already broke and turned out." But they didn't see him on the first of my 3 days when he was completely wild.
Yeah.
So that was a discovery that I look back on. And each year that I work with this, I realize how important it was to learn this.
Mm.
And so I started helping my students that I was teaching all through the late 40s and into the 50s. I had communication systems going with students. They were pretty primitive in those days, but they're getting better all the time now as we progress, just as we did with the human language.
Mm-hmm.
And so you watch the ears, you watch the neck, you watch the movements of the whole body in running away from you or coming back to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is this business of using that to control their attitude about what you're doing with them. A saddle on a girth around them, my word.
Mm-hmm.
But without pain, they can become so attuned to the human being that they absolutely prefer to be with the human when you begin to communicate with them. Right now, Shy Boy is down there in a paddock waiting for me to come by once in the day, and he comes up to me. Now, in addition to that, we have these people, the veterans, that have gone to war, understand that war is violent. Human beings have chosen to fight one another with violence. And so they go off to do this. And then when they come back, they say that they have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
Now, I tell you that in my opinion, there's no disorder here at all. It's an injury. When they go off to war, just as the physical part of war goes, it's an injury that they come back with. They didn't have it when they left, and they have it now. And it was caused by a lot of angry people fighting one another. And that's not a disorder, it's an injury.
I love that.
So these people will often come with a certificate that they have PTSD. And when I tell them that they don't have PTSD, they have PTSI, they want to walk out on me, because they quickly understand that actually it is an injury. And that's how they feel about it then.
Yeah.
So whatever else I can tell you, those are the basic principles.
Yeah, that's good. And that's what we wanted to hear from the founder. Foundational for this whole concept of the program, we also use and employ motivational interviewing, which is a great layman's tool for causing the veteran to talk a little bit about these things too. Often they don't, but they will talk to a horse. Have you seen that, Jamie? So let's bring you in here too. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about the impact that you believe the program has had on the participants that you've had leading.
Being lucky enough to be a participant and witness or a facilitator and witness all of what goes into it, the community feeling that you get just by being in such close proximity with those people for 3 days is just an absolutely incredible feeling. And the horses know it, but just, I've seen the first one I did, I walked you walk into the classroom and there's a circle of chairs and all the participants are up against the wall facing the door because you see how little trust you wouldn't have your back to a door if you're a soldier. No way. So to see all of them, and I remember the first time I walked in and there was a collection of men that were, scary, big, giant, tattooed military men with neck tattoos and the whole thing, And what amazed me was, even though they have this outside persona, just how soft on the inside they were and how much they were crying on the inside for help. And you can just read that immediately once you start talking to somebody with this outward facade of just masculinity. And then I remember the guy with the neck tattoos and all the stories and the biggest, toughest guy in the whole room. He does his first join up and we talk him through it. And then those of us who are certified in motivational interviewing. So when they're done with their join up and they achieve causing the horse to want to be with them. You can't make the horse join up. You have to cause it to want to join up. Yeah. And we walk them back to their stalls. And this biggest, toughest man sobbed like a baby the whole entire way with just his moment of having a connection with another living being who chose to trust him and came up willingly because he had the correct body language. And it also surprises me. These big, tough men or women that just have this outward facade of like a crunchy shell, with a big soft, chewy middle, it ends up showing that. But just to be around that and understand I'm married to a veteran, right?
Right.
So I see a lot of that in him. And what's been amazing to me with doing all of the horse sense and healings is how much I've taken home to my own marriage
Mm.
and being able to understand a lot more and communicate in a more healthy way with my husband. There's times where I'll sit down and just, okay, talk to me about that. And he's like, oh, wait a second. Are you doing that Monty Roberts stuff on me right now? No, honey. We're just
What do you
having a
mean?
normal, healthy conversation.
Yeah.
So I kind of lost what your initial question was, but the
Oh, you
program
got it. You got
is
it.
just absolutely heartwarming and so helpful. And so many of the people that were participants, I mean, how many of them come back to volunteer, and how many of these guys live the rest of their lives with horses? So many of them are so connected to the horses that they go back to their normal lives and incorporate horses into it, because that's how powerful horses are.
That is the truth. Yeah, I love that too. And I think it's that servant's heart, but I'll let Wade speak to that, whether he thinks that. I mean, you being the veteran, Wade, but yeah, Jamie, I think you're absolutely right. There's that interior that's been trying to tell somebody. I mean, when people are brave enough to come through that gate, we're not very intimidating, but it's mysterious coming through that gate, right? And they like, is this going to be one more of those veterans programs where I always just say right away, you can walk on the lawn here. You can go up and pet a horse. It's free for all on the farm because it's just got that chill atmosphere where people
And it's
can
for
let their
them,
hair down.
yeah.
And it's for them, 100% for them. And it's all free. I should say something about that too. This is all paid for. We have donations that come in for both the housing, the food, the facility. So there should be very few barriers to entry. And yet it's usually their own skepticism maybe about one more program that is this really going to help me respond instead of react, right? I think one of the things that scared me, Jamie, at first was when we were talking to these counselors, we always have a therapist there and they're really chill and, kind of low key, but it scared me when they said, oh, it's so great that you bring the supporters into this because the family just doesn't understand. And so for them to go back and try to tell their family what's going on is hard. But also the kids, these are learned reactions. So the kids, they said kids are being diagnosed with PTSD. And I went, wait a minute, how they never served. I don't get it. It's the learned responses that are affecting the kids too. So if we can equip guys and gals to respond instead of react, breathe instead of adrenaline going through the top of their heads, then that's what horses do for them. I think Dad, you touched on that. Don't you believe that it brings their whole physiology down?
Oh, I do indeed. And Jamie can attest to more than I can because I came from, kindergarten.
It was so innate. Yeah, that's true.
All the way through with a lifetime of it. And people like Jamie had to walk in here and get it in like a few hours, and yet they do. And the horses are better teachers than human beings every time because they can't lie. They can't make anything up. Everything that they say and do is absolutely the truth. And suddenly people, interior wise, they believe that and they understand that. And it starts to work on them. And that's when the tears fall.
Yeah, that's true. And Wade, you're new to this now, but you've been through a couple of programs, partials. Could you, as a military and also now a board member, obviously were touched by this in some way. Was it surprising to you?
Absolutely. And I kind of want to tag on to what Jamie was saying, because when you walk through that room, as surprised as she was and taken aback by what she visually saw, the veterans, and me being a veteran too for, I spent 20 years in the Air Force, we're on the receiving end of that too. And so we are never taught to, believe what you see for a minute. It's almost like everybody in that room is going, oh, great, this is another group therapy session. What's this going to be like?
Yeah.
And so they'll have done all their research. They'll have read everything there is to read about it, and they have a certain expectation. But, we all as veterans strive to be part of a team. We're trained to be part of a team. And just like horses want to be part of a herd, we don't like to be singled out or separated from our team or our herd. And I think one of the things that we see, and having gone through this, that from the very beginning, you start to see a change. Everybody's a little on edge and quiet. There'll always be one or two that'll start talking. And as people start sharing, they realize they can trust, and that's where the trust building starts, each other, because we understand what each other have been through as veterans and first responders. But on that second day, on that Saturday, when you're in that round pen, I think two of the biggest things that jumped out at me, both personally when I did my first join up and then what I actually see the veterans and first responders go through, is the mindfulness, right? And that's a buzzword of recent years about being in the now. Mm-hmm. And one of the things you absolutely cannot do, and I'm sure Monty will agree, is when you're in a round pen with 1,000 to 1,200 pound animal, you're not thinking about anything else but being in that round pen with that animal. Mm-hmm. No, you shouldn't. Absolutely. And so I think that's part of the mindfulness, and we're trained, and all the branches of service now have what they call resiliency programs or resiliency training. And that is really how to adapt and recover after the injury. And I agree, Monty, after the injury of post-traumatic stress or adversity of any kind. And then in addition to that, resiliency training, which I think these beautiful animals are just spot on in helping us do that, is being able to regulate our emotions, because that stress drives emotional responses. We're trained to deal with that stress and follow orders and just do, don't think, do. But as we come out of those stressful situations, now we have time to reflect on that. And this is where the emotional damage is done. Mm-hmm. And horses respond almost immediately to that. And as a participant, you're hearing, there's sound going on around you from the instructor telling you what to do. But a lot of times you can't hear it because you're so focused on the animal and trying to do all the things you were taught on Friday. Control your breathing, move, be on the right angle with the horses as you're driving the horse around. I mean, all these things are coming back. It's just like training. But at the end of the day, what Jamie said is seeing, the biggest, baddest person in the room just crumble and seeing the impact. And I think it was the last class, Debbie, we had a gentleman that drove 25 hours from Texas.
Angel.
With his son, Angel. Mm-hmm. And, I'd been to several classes and I continue to volunteer. I will be at this weekend's class. But when I watched Angel go into the ring for the first time, now he had been around horses for a little bit, but that little Mustang that he had was a hot horse. You could tell that the horse was hypervigilant at the time. But he walked in there, and watching him work that horse and have both of them kind of meld together as one in their breathing and their heart rates. That was one of the most beautiful things I'd seen. Mm-hmm. And to talk to him later about how powerful that was. And if I'm not mistaken, he did stay on after, right?
He did. He took the Gentling Wild Horse course right after that. And he kept his son there too. His son was his supporter. It's a beautiful story.
Listening to these things, Debbie, just stop and think for a minute. This world is smaller than it ever has been.
True.
And things happen right around the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And what if somebody important said, this has to happen? Our military has to know this before they go over there to protect this country and why they're protecting this country. Mm-hmm. The horses know, and they will give it to us. Mm-hmm. And if I don't have much time left, if I were to go and help guide a team such as is on the phone right now, through these things in some place in the middle of this country where as many people could go as possible. We could change the outlook of the military overnight. If we had the right people there. We would have a military that protects our country because they love our country and they know it's right to live on this world of ours without violence instead of with violence. That's all I have to say.
No, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I think the thing that we probably can sew up from this conversation too is that there are a lot of veterans, first responders, the police, the fire. A lot of veterans go into the services, let's call it personnel services, and that's EMTs and trauma nurses, and there's so many people that have a servant's heart. And I have to say, we've been doing this now since 2010, Dad, and it's 2024 as we speak. And those 14 years, I have seen such a delineation between a servant's heart, a server, and the rest of us. The people that go into service and then stay in service, like Wade he's still serving through this program that others may live. And Jamie, you're serving by getting these OTTBs back into service. So you have that servant's heart as well. And then Dad, you're foundational here for everything. So there is a different breed of people. So people listening to this who might love horses, they might not completely understand what we're talking about, but trust me. And if you get around it, volunteer in a veterans organization or come out here and do some volunteering with us, take a course here to start to understand what nonviolent training for people and horses is like. Because remember, the horses are fine. It's the people we're trying to impart this nonviolent action toward with better results than they may have been getting. Just imagine that if everybody sort of understood that. I think this documentary, The Cowboy and the Queen, helps with that. There's a beautiful, the last 10 minutes, I think, of the documentary really talks about this. And you all have seen it and probably do agree with me on that. But I want people to, it's the end of 2024. I want you to go to these, I want you to go to horseandhound.org in Oklahoma next to Jamie and think about contributing to
Nelda Kettles. Yeah. Her and her husband started this after years and years of owning racehorses. They decided when they retired from that, they were going to give back. And so, yes, they have 40 something racehorses up for adoption at all times. And they also decided to take all those senior rescue dogs that nobody wanted or were dropping off at the shelter. So there's probably 50 senior dogs there, and it's horseandhoundrescuefoundation.com. It's a fantastic place.
There we go. And perfect. So we'll put a link in the show notes too to these charities, but also that others may live. Wade is actually chairman of the board there, right, Wade?
Absolutely. I've been on the board there for going on 9 years next year, and I've been the chair for a little over a year. And, there's been over 60 families impacted by loss of life of a military member. And that organization has spent well over $500,000 just in scholarships for all the children of the fallen warriors. And it's an amazing, amazing organization, as is Join Up International. And I am so proud to be a part of this organization now.
Well, thank you. So if people can go to joinup.org, and donate to help the Horse Sense and Healing program and the other programs we have there. Our off-the-track thoroughbred horses are some of our best professors in this program. And so that adds to a layer of gratification for me for saving them as well. These horses are young and athletic and well pedigreed, and they're just beautiful. So we're something for everybody here in a servant's way. Here we've got people we can help. We've got horses we can help. And we can get people and horses back in circulation. If they feel like they have been out of circulation for their circumstances, we can get them back out there having healthy lives. And like Dad said, can you imagine how many people we can affect if we can get in a big pile and educate a group of people at a time, whether that's, in person or in a documentary or live on TV. I don't care. Dad, do you remember when you did that join up with Tucker Carlson when he was, I don't know, on a news station or something? He was a tiny little guy then. And he did a little join up in the backyard of where the television station was. There's like a little fenced area. You did a join up there, and it affected so many people. Remember, it was a Labor Day, and this is probably 10, 15 years ago now. But television is such an impactful media, but there's also Horses in the Morning with Jamie Jennings. It's hugely impactful across so many horse people. And Wade, you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just real quick. You mentioned certification. I learned to do all of this and understand Monty's concepts and learn them because of your support and Flag Is Up and Monty and keep in mind, you're never too old. I finished my certification at the age of 40. Okay. So like anybody can keep going with it. And I've restarted thanks to all the things that I've learned at Flag Is Up Farm, taking the intro course and then the advanced course. I just did my 180th thoroughbred off the track. Isn't that cool?
That is so cool. Yeah. So
wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. So you get them back into circulation with whatever.
And then they get adopted. Yeah. And then they get home. So it's fantastic. So and you take advantage of Flag Is Up and get that education and the certification, because seriously, I would like other people around me to get certified because I'm too busy. Like I have too much work. I can't get it all done. I would like some more people to farm out some of the work. So it's really important and impactful. And people, when they see that you have that certification, it means something. I mean, it means a lot.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
Just imagine the impact on me in 1989 when I had one lady that wanted to see this because she loved horses and she believed in nonviolent training, but it was all around her with violence and she couldn't do anything about it. Nobody showed her that you didn't have to use it. And so I did one horse and had tears running down her face.
Who was the lady?
Queen Elizabeth II.
Exactly.
Just a minor detail.
And that's a bright lady who wasn't making it up.
Right. Exactly.
It was her for real. And she took hold of me and wanted me to do as much as I could globally. And I did as much as I could. But I'm 90 now. And she's gone now. So we have to put on legs that can still travel. Mm-hmm. And we have an obligation. This phone is full of people right now with an obligation to let the world know that we're off on the wrong foot. And there's ways for we human beings to get along with one another if we just stop and think about it. And God made horses to get along with one another and get away from the violence in the life of animals in Africa. So we should try to learn from those things.
100%. There, wisdom.
Thank you, Debbie, I just have to say, and listening to Monty, I mean, 99% of everything that Monty says has so much true meaning and just rings true to everybody in the equine industry and that's been around horses. And the one thing that provides instant feedback on your ability to regulate your emotions and manage your stress is a horse. Instant feedback. No other animal, maybe dogs, close second, but no other form of resiliency training that I'm aware of in the military gives that instant feedback to let the warfighter know that it's actually working or that they're being successful. And so these programs, again, across all branches, and I know a lot of the first responder organizations, police, fire, all have resiliency type programs to have.
And remember that no human being can hire a horse to fake it.
That's true.
They do what God
you can't
created
fake
them
it. That's
to do.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, Monty. And I do think that these organizations and these branches could definitely benefit, especially with the warfighters that are just returning from the battlefield.
Oftentimes, I'm thrown backwards by people that say, oh, if this non-violent stuff gets away with itself, we're out of business, because it's all they know.
Mm-hmm.
And if they could just see that that isn't necessary, it could change human and their lives as much as it could change any of the animals' lives.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all for a wonderful episode. I hope everybody takes this to heart. I hope this episode tells people something they didn't know. They should go out and just try a join up with their horse. Just see what it says. And I bet you'll be really pleased you did.
Hi, I'm Monty Roberts. And I'm coming to you now to talk about the Monty Roberts Online University. You know, there ought to be 6 months in everybody's life where they just live with their animals. I've been staying home, but 3 months now, I've been home with this virus thing. And the things I'm learning, we're bringing you a new series. What horses see, how horses see, and about horses seeing things. The online university is bringing you the last 3 years of my learning process, which I promise you is the learningest years I ever spent. The Monty Roberts Online University, you won't miss a minute of it if you get started on it. I love bringing it to you, and it's my shot to take my concepts to the next generation.
Whisper the language of the herd. Listen, you don't have to say a word.
It's time for Jamie Jennings to fetch an email from Monty Roberts' inbox and share a morsel of Monty's wisdom in a little segment we like to call Ask Monty.
Leave this world a better place than mine. The magic in the language of the herd.
Horsemanship radio producer Jen here again, and I am pinch hitting for Jamie while she's out in Big Sky country training some beautiful Frisian horses. Tough gig, eh? Here's our question. Why do we mount from the left side? Is it merely tradition, or does it to do with the horse's physiology? Monty's answer. The fact that we mount on the left side dates back in history to a time when horses were ridden primarily to go to war. Soldiers were equipped with sabers routinely attached to the left leg. The right-handed trooper would draw his saber across his body with the right hand. If you attempted to mount from the right side, you would have to use your left foot in the stirrup. This meant that your left leg was obliged to swing over the horse's back with a saber on that side. This would be awkward and even dangerous. The officers trained young recruits to get on their horses with their saber, rifle, and pack. This required a uniform set of regulations, and since most of the troops were right-handed, the left side of the horse was chosen for mounting. Thus it became known as the near side, and the other side as the off side. Through the centuries, it became a habit of all people who worked with horses to work from the left side. Most people working with driving horses would work from the near side because the harness was geared to be buckled from the near side. The bridle and headstall were also geared to buckle from the near side. Horses were habitually worked from birth from the near side, so most horses respond better from that side.
For more of these insights into good horsemanship, go to montyroberts.com and click on the words Ask Monty at the bottom of the page.
Where in the world is Monty Roberts?
Monty is looking forward to meeting some new friends, two-legged and four-legged. So we're wrapping up the end of 2024, and December 9th through 21 is sold out, guys. Sorry for a little tease there, but that's the Monty Roberts Introductory Course of Horsemanship, and it is chock-a-block full. But I tease you that because we have another one in January, so you can join us in that. The difference is it's January 8th through 23, and what that means is there's 6 modules in that series right there in those dates, as opposed to the 4 that we've always had now since the Introductory Course of Horsemanship started. So January 8th through 23, if you go on the website, it's being put up there. We're adding some interesting courses to that introductory course, and it's also a point system too. So you'll get credits for those courses. Very interesting. And then January 19, we'll have a mountain trail Play Day. So everybody knows what that is now, I think. It's where we invite those who don't actually have access to the Mountain Trail Play Day here, normally like our boarders. They can come in for the day. They can trailer in and have a good time out there on our trail. So it's a lot of fun, and I give a little instruction, a little orientation at the top of it. So you want to give them how to find us?
I will. For details about today's show, you can go to horsemanshipradio.com, where you will find links, photos, and more information about today's guests and topics. And we love your feedback. We'd love you to follow us on social. On Facebook, it's Monty Roberts, the one with the little blue check mark, and on Instagram, as well as the platform formerly known as Twitter, it's Monty_Roberts. And we'd love you to follow along. There's all kinds of cool stuff going on there all the time to distract you from things that you really should be doing.
Right. But I allow it. It's okay. You'll love our Instagram. We've been playing with it a little bit. So if anybody does Instagram, go look at Monty_Roberts on that one. And many thanks to our sponsors who provide this message to you and these awesome interviews that we have. These people are incredible. That is Jay Michelson from Hands On Gloves. Please support them. And MontyRobertsUniversity.com. We have over 800 lessons up there right now, and a diligent team. Janine and Julia, hats off to you at the end of this year. You did it again. It's amazing, since 2009. So be sure to visit all the other great shows too on the Horse Radio Network at where? horseradionetwork.com. Until next time, have many happy horse hours.